What is good, everybody? Welcome to Niners Nation's coverage of the 2022 NFL Draft. I am Rob Stats Guerrera, and it is everybody into the pool tonight because the 49ers finally have some draft picks to make, and we are going to be here with you breaking it all down. I am very pleased and privileged to be joined by Kyle Posey, Akash Anavarathan of the Shannon Plan podcast that comes out on Wednesdays, and the human wet blanket, Levin Black, who does my show, The Gold Standard, on Thursdays. What's up, gentlemen?
The human wet
for
blanket.
Yeah.
Yes, he calls me that every episode.
No.
Yeah, I do.
What's up, fellas? Finally, the 49ers are about to make a pick. I think they're still like 15, 16 picks away, but close.
When you don't pick till 61, man, I got to tell you, it feels long. But we have had plenty of stuff happen today. You know, I did the Gold Diggers podcast with Michelle Majuk earlier today, and I thought day one for the Niners went pretty good. But KP, I look at the picks that have come off the board. Jalen Petre's gone. Anybody, a lot of names, Christian Watson, a lot of names that 49ers fans were hoping for are already off the board on day two.
Yeah, I think they dodged a bullet by missing out on Christian Watson. I don't think he's nearly as good as people. I think it's just the Trey Lance association. He played with Trey.
Yep.
He caught a bunch of touchdowns from Trey. He has to be good. Nope, I think that was more the quarterback making him. So we have a couple safeties. Jaquan Brisker. You just talked about Petrie. That would have been great. But if he was going that early, then he was probably never realistically making it to the 61. Yeah. Jaquan Brisker's entering one. Penn State guy. Feels like he would be an easy replacement for Jaquiski Tartt. I don't know, though. A lot of mocks have them going, interior line. So do they reach for a center? Because it feels like at 61, that's kind of in a no man's land spot where you're at the end of a lot of positional runs. So who are they going to get that could really impact them day one? And I know people, we've talked about this on our show a couple of times. I know people, hate Daniel Brunskill, but I don't think they're going to be able to draft a guy at 61 that would come in and beat out Brunskill.
Yeah, I think we talked about this on the Shannon Plan earlier. They're kind of in no man's land at pick 61 because a lot of the good positional players that we keep bringing up, they're likely going to be gone in the 40s, 50s. So do the 49ers get active? They still have 9 picks. They use some of those to trade up. Or do they kind of sit and just let the best player fall to them, which, if they do choose to take an interior offensive lineman, might be a reach at 61. So kind of in between a couple of positions here. The interesting one that Matt Mayoko keeps throwing out is edge rusher David Ojabo from Michigan. Tore his Achilles at pro day. He keeps bringing that name up, and Ojabo slid. And I wonder if the 49ers would consider making that move, kind of like a red shirt draft pick there, allowing him to recover, but someone they could pair with Bosa in the future.
Don't say that. I thought we were done with red shirt draft.
I was going to say, I think we all have post-traumatic stress from that strategy.
Levin J, watching on the Niners Nation Facebook page, says, what position do you think we address first? What do you think?
I don't think they have a particular position that they say they have to go get. If they did, they would have already traded up. They would have made sure they got into these early 40 picks. I think they have a handful of positions that they're okay with taking, and they're just going to wait and see who falls. Maybe move up a handful of spots, maybe as much as 10 spots to make sure they get a guy if they think somebody has excess value that has fallen. But I think the interior line at this point, I doubt. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go something wide receiver. I don't think it's out of the question, although I doubt they do it in the second round, running back. But I think that they could also go with the edge rushers. And then I think there's DBs out there. Like you said, I think Brisker right now is probably the top guy on my list that I would like to see at 61. But it's one of these picks where unless they do a real wild card, I don't think anybody's going to be upset with the pick.
I think center is the one to watch. I think everybody expects Alex Mack to retire, just given the way John Lynch's tune has changed on Mack, right? A month ago, it was, everything we've communicated with Mack seems like he should be coming back. And now it sounds like, they're uncertain. So the tone has really changed, and it makes sense. They're going the Joe Staley route with Alex Mack, kind of hiding their draft plans from other teams. And then maybe after the draft passes, Mack retires. So the question really becomes, which center do they like in this draft? Because you have to assume that they take one of these young guys. So is it someone like Cam Jurgens? Is it someone like Donovan West or Luke Fortner or one of these, day 3 guys? And so it'll be interesting to see if they reach for somebody here on day 2.
If we know Alex Mack is going to retire, the NFL has to know that Alex Mack is going to retire. Like, there's this, and everybody always talks about this. The 49ers don't leak. They don't hide their plans. John Lynch couldn't help himself when he was talking the other week that Alex Mack was about to retire. I remember talking about it. Like, people got upset when I said, he has a tell. Like, when he's clearly not telling the truth, he leaned over and just started scratching his shoulder. Well, buddy, Alex Mack's probably not coming back. But no, it will be interesting. I don't know. I think that's the fun part about the draft, right? It's like we don't know what direction they're going to go. So what would be a surprise? So Seattle just drafted a freaking running back. That was a surprise.
That's a Pete Carroll pick.
Yeah, it is. They had
You're going to run the ball.
It's unbelievable that they had 2 swipes, back-to-back picks, and they didn't take a quarterback with either one. Like, is their plan really to go into the season with Drew freaking Lock, Akash?
Or Geno Smith or Baker Mayfield potentially.
Baker.
Or to lose a lot and go into next season. I think is the plan for quarterback.
Right.
And
Maybe they think the quarterback class.
Yeah.
Exactly. You kind of punt on the season and you start working on, looking at the quarterbacks next year, whether that's, the guy from Alabama or the guy from Ohio State, CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. And I think you look in that path if you're Seattle versus, risking for a Malik Willis, Sam Howell, some of these guys that are left here on day 2. So the running back pick is weird, but I did like their first 2 picks for what it's worth. Charles Cross and Ebukate. Ebukate was someone that I liked particularly. So Ebukate went to the Falcons. Sorry. Boye Mafe was the edge rusher that Seattle took. So they've had some good chalk picks and they just went, Pete Carroll style and took a running back. Couldn't help himself.
Pete gonna Pete. What about, and we'll get to the Deebo stuff in a minute, but since we're talking about other NFC West moves, the Cardinals trading for Hollywood Brown. Apparently, this deal was worked out because Hollywood Brown was in Arizona at the Cardinals draft party yesterday. He's a good receiver, KP. He put up almost, some decent yardage with the Ravens, who are clearly a run-first team. If as a Niner fan, should I be worried?
As long as Cliff Kingsbury is coaching the Arizona Cardinals, I don't think you have to be worried. I don't think that he's going to be able to get the most out of him. But what are they doing? They just drafted Rondale Moore. So what's that mean for him? Rondale Moore is probably a better player unless they're just going to use Hollywood Brown as like a shot receiver. Maybe that's insurance in case A.J. Brown plays 7 games again. I don't know, man. Or A.J. Green. Yeah. I think that it doesn't seem, something is off there. Something seems off. And go ahead.
I was going to say a couple takeaways I had. You have a disgruntled Kyler Murray who's now up for a contract extension, right? Do the Cardinals want to pay him? It seems like him and Hollywood Brown have some type of relationship, right? Back from their Oklahoma days.
Yep.
So it seems like that's a move to appease your, franchise quarterback a little bit. And then the second thing is that's the second Tory Dandy client to get traded in round 1. Marquise Brown, Tory Dandy client, request a trade. He's gone. AJ Brown, Tory Dandy client, didn't publicly request a trade, but he got traded. Deebo Samuel was the third, and he's still here.
By the way, amazing that they were able to get that contract done with AJ Brown. That Philadelphia was able to get it done yesterday, huh? Like, wow. It's not that hard to get these contract deals done. That takes us into Deebo. Obviously, he's still on the team. 49ers look like they're going to try and work this thing out. Deebo is at the NFL Draft Experience signing autographs, wearing apparently the hat that I should have bought as a Niners and Mariners fan. I didn't even know that this hat existed. It's a Mariners hat, but it's in Seattle or 49ers colors, excuse me. Levin, I don't know if I should be encouraged or terrified.
It's been a weird day on the Deebo front, like pretty much every day lately, because of social media, mainly with Odell Beckham Jr. weighing in, saying he's going to spill the tea. And then Deebo telling him, don't do that. You're just going to cause problems. And then Trey Lance weighing in, saying it's good news. So what's that mean? Is he just trying to turn the tide and get on Deebo's good side to say, hey, Deebo, come play with me? Or does he actually know something?
How about Trey Lance, chiming in on 49ers Twitter? I love it. Jimmy Garoppolo would never And Lance is all over. He's telling Tony Jefferson to shut up. He's chiming in on all this Deebo stuff. Like, where does this go?
Your pass rusher just went the injury risk. Yeah.
Now my pass rusher, Mayoko's been the one that's been singing. Mayoko's got his
he went to the Ravens,
big board.
They get everybody. They do this all the time, man.
Their draft has been awesome, man. They are like they just stack good decisions, man. I'm so glad they're not in the Niners conference.
I just think on the Deebo Samuel front, I thought the Niners came out yesterday looking pretty good, right? Matt Barrows reported what the offer was. It doesn't make any sense to take that offer.
What was the offer?
The Jets offered pick 10 and a 5th round pick, and the Niners would have to send Deebo Samuel and pick 61. So if you work out the equivalent, trade value, that's effectively pick 17 for Deebo Samuel is what it works out to. I mean, would you guys have done that deal?
Hell no.
Heck no.
Like, that is pathetic. Like, they really thought that was going to get it done? That was the Godfather offer?
You look at Joe Douglas and Saleh's draft. I probably would have gone with their draft picks over, trading all of that for Deebo Samuel, right? 10, 35, 38, all the picks that all of us were talking about. I would rather have the players they took. All on rookie contracts, right? You hit on a couple of those guys, and all of a sudden, it looks a lot better than just using all that to trade for Deebo Samuel and pay him. So on that front, it was good. And on the other front, AJ Brown's deal, right? We were worried, okay, is the next contract going to top $70 million guaranteed, $75 million guaranteed? Well, AJ Brown got $57 million guaranteed. And the other thing is that's probably total guarantees. So it's injury plus skill guarantees, right? So Deebo Samuel is probably going to come in right around that range. And I think that's somewhere in the 49ers ballpark, right? It's not something completely unrealistic. So I think on those fronts, it looks good for the 49ers.
I find it interesting, that whole AJ Brown thing. He came out today and said that he would have taken $22 million for Tennessee.
I didn't see
so
that.
I found that interesting that he said that he would take a team discount.
Yeah,
why would they not?
He went out of his way. He went out of his way to say, like, hey, this isn't on me. They did this. And I actually love that, because you really never get that side. We never get, like, the background of the player, how he becomes, like, the financials. So I thought that was cool, man. And props to him. And they had something worked out. I wonder how long in the works that was going on, because as you said, like, a deal just like that happened right away.
I read somewhere that it's been in the works for about a week. And I think AJ Brown was working out with Jalen Hurts last week. I saw that on Instagram. So clearly those guys caught wind of it. Maybe AJ Brown heard that Philly was a possibility, right? And it just kind of quietly happened. And AJ Brown is now allowed to say, like, hey, I would have come back for a discount, because he didn't publicly request a trade. Maybe behind the scenes he said, hey, I want out or whatever, but at least publicly he can come out and say that. Whereas Deebo Samuel has come out and basically said, I want out. So now he can't come after the fact and be like, hey, I was willing to stay here for X, Y, and Z. I was willing to take a hometown discount, etc. But from the Titans' perspective, they're cap strung. I mean, I was looking at it last night. They're over the cap in 2023, and they've only got like 37 players under contract. They've got Ryan Tannehill, a bunch of defensive players tied up to big money, whereas the Niners have, like $42-43 million in cap space next year. That doesn't even include Jimmy Garoppolo's $25.5 million. So they've got the space to sign Deebo Samuel to an AJ Brown style contract. Now it's a matter of working on that relationship, seeing if he wants to stay, et cetera, and inking him to that long-term deal, and we can just get over this.
I thought it was in.
I was going to say, at this point, Deebo Samuel will be a Niner this next season, whether he likes it or not, because you can't trade him now. You can't trade him for future picks. You needed the first-round pick this year if you're trading him. I think at this point, he's sticking around regardless of an extension or not.
So it looks like the Lions went with Josh Paschal, the pass rusher out of Kentucky. Another
Mayoko big board target.
Yeah, it's 61 is it is so long. It feels like it's taking forever. On the Deebo Samuel thing, I thought it was interesting that Eric Armstead was on NFL Network this morning and said basically like, hey, everybody needs to chill out. Everybody needs to cool off. He kind of like hinted that maybe Deebo needs to be a little more patient here and wait for his deal. And I don't know, like I was surprised to see any other member of the 49ers kind of comment on this publicly, because I feel like Fred Warner was very kind of like essentially like, hey, this isn't my business. Armstead kind of, inserted himself into things a little bit, KP.
Yeah, Warner took it like, we got Deebo's back. He's one of us. He's our teammate, so we'll get
Whatever
through
happens,
this.
happens.
Armstead took more of like a leadership type of role, or I guess in his mind, a leadership type of role. Whereas, it's the offseason, man. It's like fans are going to, as we've seen, people were tracking Deebo's flights, man. So it gets really weird in these internet streets. So with that in mind, people are going to overreact to everything, and there's no doubt about it. So I really didn't have a problem with Armstead speaking out. As I said, that's leadership in his mind. And maybe somebody was in his ear, Lynch, Shanahan, hey, man, speak on this. You're our leader, whether it's a team, whether it's Deebo, because Jimmy's not around anymore. So, yeah, I can see why he did it, and I really don't mind. I don't think his message had bad intentions, I guess is what I would say.
I was going to say, it's pretty convenient. The Niners had Eric Armstead with Peter Schrager. Peter Schrager pretty tight with the Niners front office. It just, seems a little convenient, just saying, like you mentioned.
You got to think about Eric Armstead's situation when he was getting a deal. He had to sit around and wait for the other guy to see if the other guy gets the big deal and if he's the one that they're not going to be able to sign. So from his perspective, he's probably thinking, look, dude, I had to wait to see if they were going to keep Defoe before I got my deal.
But to that point, his situation is unlike Deebo. So, like, to compare these as apples to apples, like, that's just not how this works. It's not.
Yeah, Armstead didn't really have leverage
at all.
Yeah. And yet he's still got a great deal. Archimedes watching on the Facebook page says money can fix all 19 problems.
He needs to change his Twitter name to 25 problems. Can you imagine the storm that would create?
That would be
Deebo
awesome.
Changes his Twitter handle.
Don't let him get wind of that, because he really might.
Yeah. The $25 million thing is interesting because that's exactly where AJ Brown's extension ended up at. He's liked the comment. They clearly love that number, 25 million. And we knew that. And I don't think average annual value matters as much as, sometimes the players do. I feel like it just comes back to guaranteed money. So now you have a benchmark for what, Deebo Samuel could potentially earn.
I have to read this comment from Len watching on the Facebook page. You dudes are gossip addicts. Like, what is this segment of the fan base that doesn't want us to talk about anything that's going on with the 49ers? Apparently, all you can talk about are the games when they're over and the moves when they're made. We're not allowed to speculate on anything or talk about any developments in a story that's going on. I can't stand that. That drives me nuts. This is what's happening with the 49ers. This is how the story is developing. We're not supposed to talk about it, Len? Like, I don't get this. Somebody help me.
This is the process part of it, right? And just because Deebo Samuel didn't get traded yesterday doesn't mean that teams weren't interested. Why? Because we know for a fact that teams were interested, because national reporters reported on actual deals that were offered. So again, we're just talking about the process, and just because something doesn't materialize doesn't mean, nothing was ever going to happen.
Absolutely.
But thanks for listening.
Okay, switching gears away from Deebo. So Jaquan Brisker still on the board. I think we're in the late 40s now. The Niners are in potential trade up territory, right? The draft value chart says pick 61 and pick 105, which is a comp round pick, can get you to about pick 52, pick 53. Are we in a trade? Are we in a spot where you think that the 49ers could trade up for someone that they like on the board?
I think it'll be interesting to see if they do trade up. I think it's either for Juergens at center or Brisker at safety. And I think that will speak volumes to what they think of the guys they currently have in house, or Alex Mack's situation if they do trade up. If they don't trade up and they stick around to 61 and risk those guys being taken, I think that means that they have confidence in the guys they have at safety. And I would think that means Mack could be returning, even though it seems like he's not, from what we've seen in the last week.
I actually think it says more about Brunskill and their confidence in Brunskill moving forward, just because he has 9 games worth of starting experience at center, and he has been in the NFL. He's played in the NFL and started for the 49ers in 2019, when they made that run. And since then he's been on them. So Shannon knows what he's capable of. I think it would, but I do agree that it would say more about, if safety or the edge rushing group if they do pass on those positions coming up here at 61. So I don't know if they trade up. I would move up for a safety though, and I would have no problem if they moved. Like pick 105. What are the odds that you're going to get a starter at 105?
That's the thing. And I feel like they need to get one starter today, right? Whether it's center, whether it's safety, something, or I don't know. You got to get one starter because they do have holes. The Bears are on the clock now. They're just about out of time. There's about 45 seconds left. They are at 48. So that's where we are with the Niners if they want to move up. I don't know. Maybe they're trying. I mean, we don't know, right? It's possible they've been trying to move up and they haven't been able to do it. We've seen an incredible amount of trades in this draft. There were 12 trades in the first 38 picks, and there have been more since then. So maybe the Niners are trying. I know John Lynch said it was going to be boring, but damn, let's do something.
It's interesting here that I'm surprised teams haven't moved up for the quarterbacks. I mean, Malik Willis is still out there. It's kind of surprising. You would have thought getting into the middle of the second round that would be the run that you would see as these teams that still need quarterbacks saying, well, let's go ahead and get one. Even though we didn't think they were first round caliber, at this point, they're too good a value.
Kimberly Martin just said that the Panthers' pursuit of Baker Mayfield is heating up, and he could be on Carolina as soon as tonight. So that would cross
alert
Jimmy
Robbie
G
Anderson.
Right.
That's a dagger, man. Because I was thinking that Carolina was going to trade for Jimmy after the draft. Want to get to this super chat. Niners Nation and Grant Cohn actually report what we want to hear and want isn't easy to hear. Thank you. I appreciate the content, guys. Keep it up. Too many brittle fans. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We do appreciate that. I feel like this Baker Mayfield thing has flipped because even just before the draft, we were hearing that the Panthers were not interested in Baker, that they preferred Jimmy. I wonder if it's just a matter of they went to the Browns and they went to the Niners and they were like, look, you have to pay some of this contract. And whoever decided to pay more, that's who we're going with.
Bears just took Brisker.
Bear just took Brisker. Yeah, that's why I was laughing. Someone just texted me, Mayerko's board is in shambles.
I will say on the Carolina front, the later the multiple quarterbacks fall, the more possible it is that they trade. I know they don't pick till the fourth, but they're getting within range of being able to trade maybe a future pick plus their fourth to get up here and get one of these quarterbacks.
Maybe these quarterbacks just aren't good. And there's a reason that they're falling.
Certainly seems like
they're not going to be picked anytime soon because, I mean, think about it. Most quarterbacks, it's first round or nothing. Like we've seen Davis Mills, obviously. There are other examples of quarterbacks going in the second round, Jimmy Garoppolo. But most of the time, it's either early in the first round or you wait on guys and treat them as developmental prospects.
And tying it back to the 49ers, this is why they traded 3 first-round picks last season to go from 12 to 3. Because you look ahead and you see, okay, the next year's draft class doesn't have very good quarterback prospects coming out. We got to do everything in our power to upgrade at this position, just, looking ahead. And that's also why it was expensive to move up last year, right? Moving up for a quarterback especially. So, because if Trey Lance comes out in this draft, he's going number 2 probably, or do the Jags trade out of the first pick and Trey Lance goes 1, right? So
think about that, though. Think about how important the 49ers viewed getting that quarterback. Here they are sitting at 61. All these players are flying up every 5 seconds. We're talking about somebody that they could have drafted that's going to another team. Obviously, they knew that when they made the deal, yet they still made the move. That's how big of a priority it was for them. And as much as it sucks to see these people fly off the board, if Lance is what they hope and expect him to be, it's still worth it, Levin.
The crazy thing is Lance is younger than almost every quarterback in this draft class.
That's true.
He won't be Kenny Pickett's age, the first quarterback off the board, until after his 3rd season. He's a year younger than Malik Willis. He's a year younger than Ritter. I mean, he's literally a prospect that age-wise, if he was a normal prospect, he would have been in next year's draft, and you get him 2 years earlier than that. That's part of the projectability of him, is that when he was so young. So, I mean, I'm obviously very happy that they decided to go all in last year and go get a North Dakota State guy, but I think they definitely made the right move in retrospect with what's happening with this year's quarterback class.
Would you consider going wide receiver here at 61 or in the 50s? I know George Pickens still on the board. Sky Moore still on the board. Is there? I know KP and I talk about this a lot, right? Adding weapons for Trey Lance. Do you really trust, just Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, or do you add past that depth?
I will pay you $500 if the 49ers draft George Pickens. He's not getting drafted today.
What's the why is he sliding? What's the deal?
It's not great. I don't know if I should talk about it, but it is bad, and it wouldn't be surprising if he fell to the 5th round or whatever. It's going to come out eventually.
The 5th round. That's like Tyreek Hill territory.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty bad, man. And I really don't want to speak on it. I got it confirmed today by a couple different people, which I mean makes me believe that it is true. But essentially, he got in with some bad. No, I don't even want to speculate or just throw.
It's not
out.
good.
Yeah, he's not going. He's probably not going to get drafted today. And if he does, a team is really taking a chance. Some people suggested that he's completely off on multiple teams' boards.
I will say that I think either the 2nd round pick or one of the 3rd round picks are a wide receiver for the 49ers. I do think that is something they need to get depth in. They can't go on into the season with three wide receivers. I mean, that's really all they have right now is 3 wide receivers.
What do you mean they got Ray McLeod? You don't have any confidence in Ray?
No, I live in Pittsburgh. I watched him.
They signed some other guys. One guy from Tennessee. I don't even remember his name. But
Exactly.
Some flyers for camp. But Danny Gray seems to be the name that consistently gets mentioned with the 49ers. I know Matt Barrows brings him up a lot. The SMU receiver.
Sky Moore's an interesting name too. I actually like Gray quite a bit. This is probably a round too early. And Sky Moore, he's good. He's fine. He's actually very good off the line of scrimmage, good releases, but I feel like he's the same size as me, man. And that just comes back to haunt you in the NFL. I thought they would go that gadget type receiver, and he's better than a gadget type receiver. And I do think Sky Moore would excel in Shanahan's offense. So I wouldn't be mad at that. If as of right now, the way the board is looking, I would take Cam Taylor-Britt above everybody. I think he is much better than given credit for. And I think that he deserves to be a top 50 pick in this draft. So if the 49ers were able to get him, he played free safety, he played cornerback, he played slot corner. He did a lot for Nebraska. Great athlete, finds the ball, tackles, aggressive. There's a lot to like about his game. And I think D'Amico Ryans would know exactly what to do with a player like that. So that would be my pick. That would probably be the best case scenario for the 49ers at this point.
How about this comment from Hindi on the Niners Nation YouTube page? Calvin Austin, 3rd round. KP, what do you think?
Another guy he can really run, man. Right. No, that's a guy who can run, but he's smaller than I am, which is not good. I don't have many bad things to say about him, but for whatever reason, I'm just forgive me for being anti wide receivers who are sub 175 in the NFL.
You're sizist.
I was gonna say for those of you that haven't seen KP, he's like 6'3". And he's built like a load.
No, but Austin, he's fine. There's nothing. I would imagine that area, whether it's 93, whether it's 105, that's a good spot for him. And I believe he has, big playability or return ability as well. And everybody knows that's what they need. He would be fine. I don't have any problem with him adding a receiver. I would actually go for it, just as Akash said. They need to get more people around Trey Lance. Make life as easy as possible, and not just Lance, but Shanahan as well.
How about the wild card potential of, say, going an offensive tackle? Rayman, he's a Central Michigan former tight end converted to offensive tackle. I think that worked out once in the past.
Before.
I was actually wondering that if tackle's a sneaky position for him. And we know Mike McGlinchey's going to be back. He said that he was going to be ready for training camp, and they picked up his 5th-year option as well. But that's just 1 year. That's just one more season. What happens after that? Are they going to invest in him, and by that, giving him, a market contract where he's paid like among the best tackles in the league? Have you seen enough out of Mike McGlinchey to do that? So drafting a replacement this year, letting him develop, but doing that, now you leave a hole in your roster somewhere else because, he's not going to beat out McGlinchey this year. So that's kind of the decisions they have to make.
And, answering the question here, who do you want the 49ers to take at 61? There were a group of safeties that we thought the 49ers could take in round 2, right? It's Jaquan Brisker, Jalen Petrie. Lewis was never going to make it there. He got taken in round 1. Dax Hill was never going to make it there. But those 4 guys seem to be the consensus, like tier 1. And then tier 2, you've got Nick Cross, Kirby Joseph. Those group of guys probably might be available in round 3. So you could potentially use pick 93, maybe use 93 and 105 to trade up to get a safety. So I feel like they don't go defensive back here at 61. Maybe address the interior offensive line, add an edge rusher, maybe a wide receiver falls to them like Sky Moore. So the fact that they haven't traded up makes you think that they like how the board is falling their way, given the fact that they've got 9 picks left in the draft, and the likelihood that all 9 are going to make the roster is pretty low. Given, I think Lynch mentioned, they've got 76, 77 roster positions filled out. They're going to sign undrafted free agents. So how many spots are really available to make on this team?
I do think Kirby Joseph would be pretty much going in the complete opposite direction than what Jaquan Tart has been. He's the only FBS safety to have had 5 interceptions last year, and he forced 3 fumbles. So he's like the opposite. The one knock he has is he's not elite in speed, so he's not perfect in terms of catching up to guys and tracking them down. He just has really good ability of in the zone and reading the routes prior to. He's not going to be Tart chasing a guy down 50 yards down the field. I
think Joseph would be a good fit just because he's more of like that center field type. My only issue with him is I don't know if Ryans would like his physicality. He seemed a little hesitant to really mix it up when it was time to, stick his nose in there and make a tackle. But you have Jimmy Ward, you have other guys who could do that. But at the same time, they have their safeties be interchangeable. So that would just be a scheme fit. But again, like Ryans is smart enough to know how to use guys. So if they take Joseph, which would probably be a better fit in the 3rd round, would have no problem with that. I think that'd be a good pick.
Levin, we thank you very much for the time. You can catch Levin and my show, The Gold Standard, on Thursdays on the Niners Nation Podcast Network. I hope we take nobody from Purdue just to piss you off.
David Bell in the 3rd. Come on now.
Thanks, Levin.
Patriots
I don't want a guy that. Yes, I saw that. So we are at pick 50 now. We're still 11 picks away from the 49ers. By the way, I don't want that dude, Bell. He ran like a 4.65. No thanks.
Yeah.
I love how 4.65 is now slow. I mean, like 10 years ago, 4.65 is blazing speed. Now Rob's like, I don't want to touch him. He ran a 4.65.
All right.
Speedest.
Yeah, that's definitely me. Israel Herrera wants to know what I'm eating on the Facebook page. My son just delivered me a bunch of hot wings. So that's what I have. I know, right? Best kid in the world. So that's what I'm like stuffing into my face while other people are talking.
Can you make it to Scottsdale on time?
I know. I was going to say. Deliver out.
You gotta have a little something during the draft. Okay, I'm just throwing this in here. I don't even know if this is true. Alan on the YouTube page says Deebo's website has a shirt that says Deebo Samuel is back in a 49ers jersey.
Wait, did he use this to market himself and brand? If
Evil
so,
genius, man.
Props to him. Right. I have no problem with that because he's been on a social media tear.
I didn't even know Deebo had a website.
Also true. Yeah. If that's true, that is amazing, man. Maybe we need to give Deebo more credit for his marketing skills.
Deebo Samuel LLC.com.
Ooh, he's a limited liability corporation. Yes. Oh, he's got one of those dopey logos too. Man, all these players have their own logos. They're the only ones that wear them. I've never seen a regular human person wearing like a player's logo.
But now it's like because of like NIL, it feels like even college players come up with their own logos. And like you mentioned, it always has to do with their initials. I saw Caleb Williams' logo the other day. I know I saw USC was selling some of his gear, and they always use their initials. I feel like we got to just change it up a little bit.
I just saw this tweet from Cam Inman. Of the 40 49ers draft picks since 2017, 20 for offense, 20 for defense. That tells us absolutely nothing about the 49ers, but it is a cool little nugget. Let's see. We got a super chat here. Thank you very much. With Mack and Tart maybe gone at 61, center or safety. I'm wondering this. Is it possible, and if this is tinfoil on my head, guy, KP, let me know. Is it possible that the Niners have talked to Jaquan Tart and they've said, look, if we don't draft a safety, we'll bring you back at whatever contract, because nobody else seems interested in him. Obviously, the 49ers would know what they have there. Do you think that he's kind of their fallback plan?
I think that door's closed, honestly. And I would love him back. I think he is so much better than what fans believe. And of course, we remember the last thing we saw, and that is him laying on the carpet in SoFi Stadium after every, the play that just happened that I don't even want to talk about, right? But I don't think so, man. I think that, the door's closed. Now, if they did have a fallback option, Tyrann Mathieu would make more sense, just because, and I don't want to say he's a bigger name, but he's versatile. Like, he can do everything that DeMeco Ryans asks of his safeties. He's smart. He's heady. He knows where the ball is. I think that would be kind of their fallback option, but they seem to always want to inject youth when it comes to these type of picks. So I think we're going to get an idea, and I think they're going to draft a safety today. I think that we're going to see that, whether it's safety at 61, 95, or 93, 95, whatever pick it is, 105. Not sure, but I do think a safety is going to happen with one of these three picks.
Yeah, I think just like you mentioned, both of these positions will be addressed, I think, today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think they're going to load up on the interior of the offensive line, right? Left guard, center, right guard. There seems to be, a little bit of unknown, right? We don't know what they have in Aaron Banks at left guard. Center, Alex Mack, Jake Brendel, Daniel Brunskill. He's on a 1-year tender. Same thing at right guard. Can Jalen Moore really play there? He's primarily played tackle. They want him to slide inside. So I think they double up along the interior of the offensive line.
Patriots just drafted Tyquan Thornton, who ran, what was it, the 4.22? See, that's what I'm talking about. No 4.65. Let's go. I kind of like the strategy from the Patriots, though, right? Get a burner. Get a guy who can chuck it deep. Mac Jones is a very good deep ball thrower. Like, I at least see the accuracy. The problem is, the Patriots have been so bad at drafting wide receivers.
Damn, Cam Jurgens has gone to Philly.
So I want to talk about him because he's been a popular pick to the 49ers. I don't think he's as good as people made him out to be. He missed a lot of blocks. He overran a lot of blocks. He looks like a guy who needs more seasoning. And once I started to watch him, that's when I started to come up with the thought that he's not going to be able to beat Brunskill out. So I don't think this is as big of a miss as some people think. And I know, again, like, it's a center, the name, they met with him. Obviously they were interested in Cam Jurgens. He's a great athlete. He has some, high level highlights, but on a down to down basis, I really don't think this is a big miss for the 49ers. There are some other guys that I mentioned earlier today, but I think they're actually better than Cam Jurgens. So I'm fine with this.
Are there any other names that you think they could go? I know Dylan Parham from Memphis has been a name that they've tossed out a bunch. Luke Fortner, the Kentucky center. Donovan West, the ASU center. Any of those names pop out?
Yeah, those were the two that I listed earlier today, and I think they would be better fits. And again, since they're not as popular, I guess, but I feel like Farm he plays all over the line. I think he played both guard and center. I think Logan Bruss is another one. You can't go wrong with the Wisconsin lineman. So Bruss, Fortner, West, I think all those guys would be good developmental picks. But again, I think Brunskill is going to be able to beat him out, man. I'm weirdly high on Brunskill, and when I say
yes,
high,
you are,
relatively speaking, right? For as high as you can be on a guy who played in a developmental league a few years back. But I think that they can get by with Brunskill, man. And I'd rather have them go reach on another position or reach than overreach on a center right now.
Wow, Steelers went George Pickens.
Okay, wow.
Whoa.
Let's talk about this.
That just I thought he wasn't going to the 5th round.
You want to? So here's what happened. And now we can talk about it since he is gone. So this has been confirmed by two people, my way, and another guy. I'm not going to say his name. He confirmed it with two separate sources as well. So at Georgia, this is beyond effed up too, by the way. At Georgia, Pickens bullied an autistic kid so bad that the kid almost offed himself. And it came up over the past week as teams were digging into the car crash that Pickens was just in. So Pickens had a car crash at 4 a.m. last Sunday. And during that car crash, he essentially made the running back who's still at Georgia take the fall for him. So it was a hit and run. And I don't know if they swapped seats or whatever. But, okay, aside from that, that's when the team started digging in and found out about this. The kid sent multiple letters to NFL teams saying, hey, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Teams like, what are you talking about? What's not a big deal? So that's when they dug in and found out, oh, no, this is a really fucking big deal. So that's
Wow.
why Pickens was falling. So when you hear like the immature issues, like those are the things that he was doing
Wow.
at Georgia. You can't do that. Like that is awful. I cannot put into words how terrible that is. So that's why I thought there was no shot he was going to go today, because if you're just strictly looking at on the field, and actually my biggest issue with him on the field is I don't think he offers much after the catch, which is not good in today's NFL. But everything aside from that, he's probably one of the better receivers in the draft. But you can't do that off the field. And knowing that it was repeatedly happening, I mean, Steelers always take second round wide receivers.
I was going to say Mike Tomlin has to know, right?
For 100%, yeah, I had to dig into him.
That's why, and they're like the anti-Patriots, right? Every receiver the Steelers draft, I feel like, ends up being pretty good.
Seriously, yeah.
We'll have to see. Man, that is, of all the things I thought you were going to say, bullying the autistic kid was not on the list.
Yeah, man.
It's a tough transition, but I'm going to do my best. Vish Kumaran is hopping in the stream. What's up, Vish?
What up? What up, everybody?
So I'll put the question to you that we started with. We have seen a lot of names that 49ers fans know fly off the board. We are at pick, what are we at, 52 right now, I think, with the Steelers.
I think that'll be Sky Moore. Don't you guys think that'll be Sky Moore? That feels like Pittsburgh's second round.
Ooh. They just took George Pickens.
Oh, they took George Pickens. Great.
Okay, so then
that's also makes sense. Yeah.
So then we're at 53 in Indianapolis.
They just took Alec Pierce, so another wide receiver. So maybe we see a wide receiver run coming up.
Yeah. So then wouldn't Kansas City make sense then to be Sky Moore
as their Tyreek Hill replacement, which obviously that's
not really a Tyreek Hill replacement.
Getting a wide receiver in the building that can play right away, as I guess the best way to put it.
Because I think Valdez Scantling is going to be their quote unquote.
Oh, dear Lord, man. Good luck with that.
I saw someone call Christian Watson FCS MVS, and I burst out laughing.
That's great.
Oh, that's pretty good. I'm looking at wide receivers, and the person that jumped out to me, and only for run after the catch ability, is Eric Ezekama from Texas Tech. I don't know if I'm alone on that bandwagon.
I don't even know who he is, Rob.
Kyle's nodding, so I feel like somewhat validated, KP.
Yeah, no, I'm nodding because you shouldn't be. I'm nodding because whenever, like, I always say, hey, guys, there's no Deebo Samuel in this draft. And that name was dropped a couple times, and by guys with check marks, guys who essentially know what they're talking about, and they do not. He is not a Deebo replacement. Yes, he is good after the catch, but I feel like because a college player, for example, because he was asked to do a certain thing, and Khalil Shakir is another one that I would lump these two guys together, because they had production after the catch doesn't mean that's going to translate to the NFL. And I don't think they have the speed or physicality to put them on that same tier as Deebo, or to put them on a guy where you could rely on them consistently after the catch in the NFL. So I would say if the 49ers are looking for a wide receiver to contribute early, they would probably have to draft him either at 61 or hope that a guy falls to 93. But I don't think I don't want to say his name because I'm going to butcher it. Ezekama would fit into what the 49ers want, which means they're definitely going to draft him.
The thing is,
Stanford guy?
No, SEC. Yeah. Oh, at Texas Tech.
Rob said Texas Tech, right?
Yeah.
I feel like at this point, we can just throw into anybody who runs a jet sweep or catches a bubble screen, which is technically every receiver just about now in college. It's like Deebo Samuel has become generic draft jargon. Like any big arm quarterback has Josh Allen-like qualities.
Right.
Any linebacker that's fast, there's a generic type for that. It's Deebo Samuel now has just become a generic draft term. He can do all the Deebo Samuel things. He can do all of that. What does that exactly mean? Because I don't think there's as many wide receivers in the NFL that you can line up in the backfield and run outside zone that actually have the acceleration to, out leverage linebackers and stuff and win on the perimeter. I don't think there's a lot of receivers. I mean, this is my comparison for Deebo Samuel. He's Anquan Bolden his body, but he moves like Percy Harvin. How many other athletes have we ever seen in the NFL like that?
Not very many.
Not many.
Yeah.
And speaking of receivers, Sky Moore gone to Kansas City.
Okay, yeah. See, that makes sense. See,
yeah, that's good.
yeah, so I think Sky Moore maybe is going to offer some of the Tyreek stuff underneath and maybe in the screen game, and then Valdez-Scantling will offer the Tyreek stuff deep. They're good. They don't need Tyreek Hill anymore. I know, KP, that's what you're thinking, right?
I mean, I hate hearing the Deebo name, like the Deebo comparison every time, because again, like people don't understand how ferocious, like we talk about physical and just being tough and strong, but he's like a ferocious runner where when he builds a head of steam within 1 or 2 steps and guys move out of the way to tackle. Like they have no interest in tackling this guy. Yeah. That doesn't happen with other players. So we need to stop saying his name. We need to stop comparing him to other guys because he's unlike anybody else.
I love this comment from Nick on the Facebook page. Somebody get KP the Brunskill jersey or a framed one behind him. You've been giving Daniel Brunskill a lot of love.
Best lineman on the team, baby.
I'm throwing this question up because it's super chat and we appreciate all the super chats. Thoughts on Jason Poe, guard from Mercer, maybe 6th round? Dude, I'm sorry. I don't know who that person is.
Yeah, dude.
Did you watch his Alabama tape?
I meant to, and I didn't get to it.
Slipped your mind.
I mean, that dude flies. I was looking at his like combine athletic scores. They were all in like the 96th percentile for guards. I think he's just like an athletic freak that is like a developmental prospect.
Yeah.
And there's that one game they played Alabama.
I'm useless in this conversation because one, I don't study offensive linemen. I think offensive lineman is the best studied position by the consensus and the like people who are verified. Like they usually get the guys right. And I don't know a lot about offensive line and I don't want to learn it. So I just rely on them and, oh, this guy's pretty good.
I don't want to learn
everybody says Ike Khan was good. Okay. Ike Khan was really good. But the other thing also is that I'm not interested enough in the draft to start watching 5th and 6th round guys unless the Niners watch them or draft them. I'm sorry. It's too much of a grind to even watch the ones in the 1st and 2nd round. Like, Jesus, you're talking 6th, 7th round.
I still wouldn't know who he is.
Yeah,
so there's no shot I'd be able to answer that. I'm terrified that I don't know who they're going to draft at 61.
Right.
Yeah. Me too. At this point, I thought maybe Brisker had a chance, and then the Bears took him.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was going to say a name that Barrows keeps throwing out, Drake Jackson, the edge rusher, USC. Any chance they go defensive line here at 61?
Yeah, I mean, edge rusher would make sense just because, but he's not like the Penn State guy is athletic and has like upside, and you can see what he will be in 2 years. Seems like Jackson is what he is right now. Like he's going to be the strong side guy who sets the edge, like Ebicom essentially is what you would think.
Yeah, exactly.
But not as athletic. So I don't know if that's like, is that the type of guy you want to draft at 61? But again, you're in a position.
To me, that's a wasted pick with Chris Kasarik. Like,
right.
If you have a defensive
he will get the most out of somebody.
Coach that good, right? Yeah, you want to get the high ceiling guys that have the ability to be something like Arden Key, right? Arden Key's physical traits are pretty freaking special, and you give him good coaching or whatever, and he was pretty freaking good last year. Like Arden Key kicked ass in a lot of games at the end of last year, like the Cincinnati game, all of that. Like Arden Key was an ass kicker, so
Arden Key
it wouldn't make sense. Yeah,
he became one of my favorite players down the stretch. I mean, him along in that pass rushing front on 3rd downs, it was just superior as the season went along. But
yeah,
and now they added Kamoko Toure, who again fits the same mold, right? Freaky athlete,
right.
So we have had 13 wide receivers taken in 54 picks. That is almost a quarter of all picks in this draft have been wide receivers.
I'm kind of blown too. I'm kind of blown by it because like they're good, but I didn't expect 4 to go in the top 15. I didn't look at 4 of them as even having top 15 value. It's blowing my mind right now the way this draft's playing out.
Dearson33 watching on the YouTube channel. With so many receivers being drafted, is your best option to get players at other positions of need instead of reaching for the 30th wide receiver on the board, offensive line and safety all day? What do you think, Akash?
It's a little zig while everyone else zags kind of a move, right? Do you get someone better at a different position because technically they probably are higher rated on your board, or do you reach because by the time you pick again, the subsequent wide receiver that'll be left on the board may not be very good. So it's a really interesting dilemma. I feel like you just trust the board and you just take the best player. Because I was reading somewhere, and I think it's true. Every 2 years, it feels like the roster changes. So what now may not be a position of need, may be a position of need in like a year or two. So just take the guy that you have the highest rated on your board and just find a way to coach him up, and eventually he'll find a way on the field if he truly is that.
Do you guys have any safeties that you guys like still? I got Brian Cook. That's the only one I really like still.
He's a good player.
Much. Yeah.
I think it should be Cam Taylor-Britt. I know he's not technically a safety, but he played cornerback too. That's who I want them to take at 61, just because I think he's everything you want in a DB in today's game. And he can play multiple positions. He can tackle, he can run, he can find the ball. He's aggressive. He's smart. Like, he understands routes. He understands what routes are happening at different points of depth, which not a lot of DBs do. I honestly think I wouldn't have a problem if they would have a pick in the top 50 taking him. So definitely 61's value. So that's what I'm hoping for, is Cam Taylor-Britt, which means they're going to pass on him and a good team's going to take him.
Any Marcus Jones love?
Yeah, I like him too, man. I think we're talking about a round out, just because, again, as a size elitist here, he's like 172, like he's 5'8", 170. But he's like he would be comfortably the best returner they've had since Ted Ginn. Like, he's a Ted Ginn level returner. He is that good.
I would be fine with that, by the way. I'm 37. Sure. They've had one good returner in my life, and you just named him. It was Ted Ginn. And by the way, the one game he didn't play, the NFC Championship game in 2011.
No R.W. McQuarters love?
Oh, wow.
How dare you bring up that disgrace to wear the number 21 in the 49ers jersey. Man. Come on now. By the way, KP, 100% accurate. Ian Rappaport just tweeted that Pickens was a passenger in a car crash a week ago. He was cited for not wearing a seatbelt with his head hitting the windshield. He left scraped, but okay. Both vehicles wrecked. That was the official George Pickens car accident. So
is that the same car accident that Trevon Walker and Quay Walker were in?
No, it was with the running back. It happened at 4 in the morning too.
Running back that'll likely be a top, like 60 pick next year that we'll hear about. I mean, Georgia's just breeding these dudes. They're crazy.
What a loaded defense they had. My God, what are they going to have? Like,
still on the board, by the way.
You know what? I now hate Georgia, because to study for the draft, I felt like I watched the same game 8 different times, because I had to watch like 8 different players. I hated it. Like, you watch it once for Lewis Cine, then you got to watch it again for Davis, then you got to watch it again for Wyatt, then you got to watch it again for Trayvon Walker, then again for Quay Walker, Nakobe Dean. It's just on and on and on and on.
I would have traded up for Cine if he were to fall. If he were to fall to the second round, even, I would have traded up for him. Like,
that was the only bad thing that happened on day one of the draft. The last 2 picks of the first round were both safeties, and it was just like a punch in the gut, because I was thinking, like, going into day 2, Lynch will trade up to get one of these people, and yet it just 2 got picked at the end of the first. They couldn't move up today, and now I literally have there is no position that they could pick that would surprise me other than quarterback.
Tight end?
Yeah, tight end would shock me.
Yeah, I suppose. Although they friggin' have been searching for George Kittle's backup forever. I just saw this from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. My understanding of Panthers' involvement with Baker Mayfield per sources. Options still alive, but Carolina very much torn internally over Mayfield. Some there are simply not sold, might end up being the best of options, but draft quarterbacks are falling, and that could affect things.
Yeah, wait, Rob, can you do something for me? Can you go to Josina Anderson's Twitter? I think she had the same tweet. Can you see if it's verbatim the same tweet?
Checking right now.
Must be agents.
Let me see. I don't see that.
What?
I don't see anything about Baker. No.
Oh no!
You're thinking of Kimberly Williams.
Someone DM'd it to me, and I saw the J in the verified, and I thought it was Josina Anderson. My fault, instead of Jeremy Fowler. It's my mistake.
Well, we know that. I mean, the copy paste among quote unquote insiders.
We do know it. Yeah,
it's strong. So the Cowboys.
Go ahead, my bad.
I was just going to say the Cowboys pick is in at 56. So we are inching ever closer to the 49ers pick. Go ahead, Vish.
No, I was going to say this about to bring the conversation back to Marcus Jones. And I don't know how you guys felt about it, but I thought this was the first time I've seen 49ers Twitter, and credit to them. They stand a lot of players. A lot of them usually are really weird to me. They never make sense. First player they've stand that I've turned on and I said, wow, he's actually really good. Like, it's a rare 49ers Twitter loving a player. And I actually thought he was good. I don't know if you guys felt that way, but there's been some tough players that they've stand that I've turned on and gone, like
Wait, who did
Austin
they stand?
Watkins and Leon
Marcus Jones.
O'Neal.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, KP, you got a little bit more self-control than the rest of us. You're not scrolling endlessly on the app and seeing the fan interaction and conversation. So
I have to step away, man. I can't do it all day like you guys.
Mayoko just tweeted out updated 49ers draft board unofficial. Safety Nick Cross, defensive end Nick Bonito, Dylan Parham, Luke Gadecki, Luke Fortner, JT Woods, and Jalen Tolbert. Akash, if I
Tolbert's
said the Niners
interesting.
are getting one of those at 61, who do you want?
Who do I want? Ooh. Those are a lot of names. I would probably, just thinking of positions, I would probably go one of the interior offensive linemen, but
Yeah.
it feels
Cowboys
like
went with Sam Williams, by the way, linebacker out of Ole Miss.
yeah. You mentioned it at the top, but picking at 61, we've been waiting for so long. You're like, damn, this guy's gone. Damn, this guy's gone. And you get to 61, you're like, damn, these are just a lot of names.
So I'm not gonna lie. I was trying to figure out what time we should start the show, and I was trying to calculate in my head. I was like, I think an hour into it will be good. We've been on the air for an hour, and we still haven't gotten the damn pick yet. I blew it. That's on me.
Nick
forgive
Cross
you,
is a
Rob.
high athlete. Like, he ran 4.3. He's a really physical.
And Avish hates him.
yeah, I'm not a big fan of Nick Cross. Not
No,
everybody.
I'm not either. But I think when you're talking about Chris Kosirkin, when you're talking about just athletes with upside, if that's the route they go, then I could understand why, but I wouldn't take him.
So my entire thing with Nick Cross is I think he makes sense for a team that doesn't need a day one safety starter tomorrow, because I don't think he's one of them. And so my top 6 safeties in the draft were Hamilton, Seen, Cook, Hill. This isn't in any order. Hill and Petrie, and there's one more, and Brisker. Those are the 6, because I looked at all 6 of them and said they're day one starters. Nick Cross has potential to be incredible, because when his eyes are right and he comes downhill in the alley, he brings it. He brings it. It can be sometimes it could look like maybe Lewis Seen with the speed and the ability to hit, but oh my God, it's hard to watch just at times. So for me personally, if you're gonna take him at 61, the training camp battle between him, Hufanga, and Odom will be one to watch for sure, because they all have their own set of strengths and weaknesses. But I don't think there would be one guy that you could say, ooh, that's a starting safety for sure.
4-3 guy, right? Nick Cross.
Yeah.
Shades of Tarvarius Moore athleticism. I haven't watched Cross, so I'm just asking.
Moore is better than he is.
Okay. Well,
You think Moore is better? Interesting.
Yeah, I do.
The Buccaneers
coming out or
traded
no?
I actually was very high on Tarvarius Moore coming out. I thought he was going to be very good, and the 49ers wasted him, and then they moved him, and then they moved him again. So there's no way you can blame the player for that. But I think he had everything you wanted to see in a safety coming out for sure. So I definitely get why they took him.
The Bucs have
Moore's
traded
trades are
up to
scary.
57. Sorry, Vish.
Who traded up?
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have traded up. It goes Bucks, Falcons, Vikings, Bills, and then the 49ers as it stands right now. But there's seemingly a trade every other second. So we'll see.
Do you think Minnesota takes Malik Willis?
I was wondering that, because one of my friends is a Vikings fan, and he wanted them to take a quarterback the first time that they were on the clock just now. So that wouldn't be surprising, man. Kirk's on his way out, right?
Yeah.
No, he's under contract, I think, through 2023.
Oh, I thought he had one more year. This is his
I thought it
last
was just one, too.
So Florio just tweeted out something about this, and it was like, why are they saying that Kirk Cousins is done after this year? He's under contract till, I thought he said 2023. Let me see if I can still find
I thought he
it.
had 2 seasons, but I could look.
Didn't he just sign an extension or something? There we go. Why do they keep saying Cousins is on a 1-year deal? He signed through 2023, slightly significant difference, according to Florio.
It's 23, and then he's got a couple void years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's got 2 years left.
Didn't they just take Kellen Mond as their
Yeah,
kind of
that's
like
true, that's
experimental flyer. Now that was the previous, that was Rick Spielman and who knows?
By the way, Rick Spielman's awesome on TikTok.
Really?
I don't
on
know
TikTok?
if you guys. Yeah, Rick
That is
Spielman's on
amazing that he's
TikTok
on
and he gives
TikTok.
his thoughts on players. It's pretty funny because like he's like uncomfortable in front of the camera, but it's interesting to hear him talk because like Rick Spielman was a good GM. He had a good track record for a while of drafting players. I do have a question for you guys. If we're gonna talk high upside edge rusher, I don't think Nick Bonito has gone yet. He's not my favorite player, but he does have an athletic upside to be, maybe a Bruce Irvin type for this defense.
That was one of the names Mayoko dropped.
Yeah,
really?
it was on.
Okay.
Yeah, he was one of the names on the big board. Jason, watching on the Facebook page, says they haven't traded Greenlaw so far. That was my hot take coming in. I thought that they were going to use Greenlaw as part of a package to move up. Maybe nobody wants him. I have no
I
idea.
don't think he has any value. That's what I was gonna say, Rob.
He missed a lot of people don't understand. He missed a lot of time, man.
Yeah, he did miss a lot of. You know what it is? You intercept Russell Wilson one time at home, and everybody thinks like you're awesome forever. And I mean, the dude lost his job to Azeez Al-Shire, and deservedly so. Azeez was amazing.
Yeah,
Hey, but the only I still when I think about Azeez as good as his season was, I still have 3rd and 17. Colt McCoy throws a little check down to James Conner stuck in my head.
Oh,
I just remember his game
Hidecki's
up here
gone.
in Seattle.
Luke
Azeez,
Hidecki's gone.
that game. No Greenlaw, no Fred Warner. First game wearing the green dot. I think he had 14, 15 tackles, a forced turnover. He was phenomenal
On the goal line. Jimmy Garoppolo then took them all the way down to. Oh, that was some game. Yeah, bad memories.
The Bucs have drafted Luke Hidecki.
I was going to say,
scratch another name.
Back to Bonito, like Vish mentioned, 4.54 40-yard dash, finished in the 95th percentile. Smaller guy, 6'3", 250 on the smaller end. Shorter arms, 32.
Yeah,
Crazy
he profiles
concept.
like other guys who've been picked for this defense, like Bruce Irvin, Vic Beasley, right? I mean, at least you're going to pick him a lot, like 45, 50 spots lower than those guys were picked. Like Bruce Irvin was the 15th pick in the draft, Vic Beasley was 8th. But, like, I mean, we're also running out of names that I really, really know and have watched. So that's why I'm also focusing the conversation towards Nick Bonito. But
It feels like they're kind of in no man's land. Like some of the positions they need, they'd be reaching for some of the players, right? So like some of the safeties you mentioned, some of the offensive line you mentioned.
I'm just saying right now, if they trade out of 61, we're ending the show. I don't know if I have the stamina.
We'll be back, y'all.
If they trade out of 61, I will have to go read Lance Zierlein's draft profiles of the players to be able to tweet about them once they pick him.
That can't happen. Great. Like, please tell me that they are not going to trade out of 61.
I was going to make a dry joke when Akash brought up, like, would you trade up for, because when you said 14 receivers have gone, I was like, oh, it would be right on brand for the 49ers in a deep receiver draft to trade up for the 16th receiver or 15th receiver. Because, I mean, the Dante Pettis trade up at the time for value was interesting. And I like Brandon Ayuk. Maybe I'm a little bit lower on him than most, but I don't think in terms of value in the greatest receiver draft ever, trading up for the 5th receiver made a lot of sense. I still don't think if you're talking from a pure value standpoint, which is why I brought that up. But, I mean, he's a pretty good player, so you can't really complain with that. But
there are still a lot of people. I'm just scanning through the comments. Like this comment from Eric Lindsay. Thought the 49ers should have gone after Trey's favorite college teammate receiver. That's a mistake. There are
sure
a lot
he's the favorite?
Joe Burrow and Jamar. No, he's friends with that other guy.
Phoenix Sproles?
I was going to say, he's like never posted anything on social media. Not that that's some gauge. I feel like we just assume he loves Christian Watson, but does he really? Because he like Vish mentioned, he hangs out with Phoenix Sproles a lot. Way more than Christian Watson.
Great name, by the way.
No, I think unreal.
I know that when I talked to Trey, he was obviously very complimentary of Christian Watson, but he also it was also very much like a, like a standard. He's a good guy, great teammate. He's helped me get where I am. He didn't really
comments, right? He's not saying
it was just basically like generic good comments.
I mean, dude, I think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase doing what they did has made everybody think that if you just go get a quarterback and go get his college teammate, like I saw some people suggesting the same thing with Desmond Ridder and Alec Pierce. So
Pierce went before Ritter. That's pretty crazy.
Wow, the
yeah,
Vikes.
I thought Pierce would go before Ridder. I didn't jump on the Ridder wave as much as other people. I'm just shocked that Malik Willis and Desmond Ridder have gone below, or now about to go below Jalen Hurts, where he went.
That's nuts. Wow. When was Hurts?
He was 2 years ago, right?
Hurts.
I mean,
he was the Burrow Herbert Tua draft, right?
Yeah, he was 2 years ago. Like
50, 30, right? 50 or 51.
Yeah, late in the second round.
53. Holy smokes.
53. Jesus. Because I've joked, like, I'll just say, because we're a bit more casual here on this platform, but I'll, like, joke in, like, group chats I'm in or people I'm talking to or with friends that, like, Malik Willis is Jalen Hurts with talent.
Wow.
When I watch him, which, I mean, again, it's a dry line, but it's a joke. But now, like, I don't think there's any justification for, Willis going. If at this point we're going to be going 10, 11 picks, because everybody else, I don't think outside of Minnesota, there's really anybody that has a chance of taking him unless somebody trades in right now. So if we go with him going, 12, 13 picks below Hurts in what is considered to be a weaker draft in terms of overall depth in a lot of positions, that's pretty shocking.
So Vikings took Ed Ingram, by the way.
If they take Cross here, Vish, what's going to be your reaction?
My reaction will be that I think they might have to give Jaquiski Tartt a call and have him fill in for another 16 games before they have a starting safety. Because Nick Cross might be really, really good. I just think it'll take a year, which is why
he can be a bit reckless, which is my concern.
I was going to say Ed Ingram, who just went to Minnesota. Actually, I heard somewhere that the 49ers did a ton of research on him. I guess he had some off the field stuff at LSU, maybe some sexual assault, something along those lines. And they did a ton of research. He was a guard, a couple-year starter there. So he's gone off the board as well.
Niners are on deck right now. Buffalo is 60, and then we get to San Francisco at 61. I'm just scanning the 49ers beat writers' tweets. I don't see any breaking news. I was actually thinking that we might see a Jimmy Garoppolo trade at some point tonight.
No,
too.
Did you see the Aaron Wilson report? Rob, I have not seen you tweet about it on the timeline yet. Oh, you saw it?
I just threw an eye roll up because he said that the Niners are second round pick for Jimmy.
For a second round pick. So we're going to be stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo for a while. I'll tell you that.
Man,
that's what you mean as far as their asking price?
Yeah. That's what Aaron
No, it wasn't even that. He said straight up it would take a second round pick for the 49ers to move Garoppolo. It was different. Like, it wasn't like the 49ers are looking for a second round pick. They're so contented with where they are because they can foot that bill. It would take a second round pick to move them.
I know we're about to get the 49ers pick here, but Joe Person covers the Panthers for The Athletic. Panthers and Browns, and talks about Baker Mayfield per source. David Tepper big on value, and Panthers are going to want Browns to pick up a good chunk of Mayfield's $18.8 million. I think the Browns are just more desperate to move off of Baker. They're willing to, pay some of the salary, willing to accept, a day 3 pick.
But
and
don't you think there's a point that the Niners have to get there to be desperate? I mean, the Rams were so desperate to move off of Jared Goff that they took $24 million of his dead cap and put it on their salary. And they won a Super Bowl literally because Jared Goff. I love Matthew Stafford, but I think them winning a Super Bowl was more about not having Jared Goff as their quarterback rather than having Stafford as their quarterback. I mean, you guys know how much I love Stafford, but there were 7 or 8 other quarterbacks in the league who could have won this year's Super Bowl with the Rams. It was just that they didn't have, the 28th best quarterback in the league anymore.
Well, that's what everyone's been saying about Jimmy, right? Don't give me this guy. Just give me not the 25th or whatever number you want to throw on it, and changes the entire fortune. Chris Ricciardi, watching on the Facebook page, says, take what you can get for Jimmy to get that $25 million off the books. By the way, the Bills have traded out of the pick. The AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock, and that pick is in. So somebody just leapfrog the 49ers.
For whoever they take, it's probably who they thought the 49ers were going to take, right?
Yeah.
Because they were at 63. They just went up 3 spots.
Yeah,
so
right,
exactly.
Exactly. Who do you think the Bengals would want right now?
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Not a receiver, I'd
safety,
assume.
or the Bengals
So
have
someone along
heavily
the offensive
invested in
line?
their. Yeah, I was gonna say they've been investing in their offensive line, and they
Cam Taylor-Britt. Damn.
Is it?
It's Cam Taylor-Britt at 60.
Oh no, KP.
Oh, KB.
Man, the Bengals. That's why you lost the Super Bowl. You deserve this. Come on, man. No, he's really good, man. Like I think he's going to be much better than his draft selections, like where he's taken right now. So I can see why they thought the 49ers would go, because again, 49ers, they move their DBs around a ton. That's interesting, man. I think I would have loved him, honestly. I really thought he would have helped their secondary, and then not just this year, but next year, year after that.
I think this is going to be cross, guys. I do.
But if the 49ers don't trade out of this pick, you would assume that their guy is still there, right?
For sure. 100%.
Well, first of all, every team always gets everybody they wanted. Like, right?
Yeah,
They never.
Yeah, obviously.
You're going to see John Lynch later tonight is going to say, "This is the person we had on our board right at the top all along."
We had him as a first-round pick. We were shocked he was there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. We would have taken him at like the old Reuben Foster line.
Yeah.
We would have taken him at 3 or 2 or whatever the hell it was.
We would have taken him at 13.
Yeah. So we'll see. The Niners are officially on the clock. And
all right, fingers crossed for Bonito, but I have a great feeling this is cross. Just because if I say somebody that I'm not as high on, like the Niners immediately draft him, and then I got to change my tune, and it's a whole thing.
I don't even know who to hope for. Like the pick is going to come in, and I'm going to be like, okay. It's such a different thing
I'll say
from
this.
last year.
As fellow fans, this is the least excited I've been about a draft since 2008 when they drafted Kentuan Barmer and Shiloh Rashaw. I don't know about you guys, but this is literally how it's feeling.
100% agree. Partially because last year's draft, there was so much build up to it, so much preparation went into it. They don't pick till 61. And it's like there's not very many needs, and the needs aren't very interesting positions. It's not like they need a receiver or a corner or something like that. It's like interior offensive line or safety. It's just, I don't know, not as sexy.
And we don't have any buzz names, right?
Yeah.
We don't have any buzz names that.
It's tough to get buzz names when you're at 61, man.
Yeah, and everybody wants to be able to just, throw on the YouTube highlights, right? As soon as the person is picked. I'm guilty of it. That's the first thing I do, especially picking at 61. I got to be honest. I don't know much about any of these dudes at this point. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is throw it into YouTube. And right, if it's an interior offensive lineman, some of those highlight packages get a little dicey.
Yeah, Rob knows it too, especially when you're talking about when in the 6th, 7th round, if it's a running back or a receiver, those highlight packages make you think that you just drafted a Hall of Famer in the 6th or 7th round.
I was feeling pretty good about Elijah Mitchell last year after he was picked. I'll tell you that and I saw the 40 time. I was like, okay, we might have something here.
Could they go running back? Could they go like James Cook?
James Cook would be sick, actually. I'm not even going to lie. He would be sick.
You just traded up for Trey Sermon last year.
That's the issue.
But you shouldn't compound mistakes either, right? You shouldn't.
But with your first pick, I don't know. I couldn't do it. Like, that's their biggest priority. Like, you can get a running back in the 5th round, Is it going to be significantly worse than the running back they would take at this spot at 61?
You think the longer this goes, they're trying to trade out of this pick, right?
Oh, Mike Silver says it's Drake Jackson.
It is Drake Jackson, okay.
See, man, so we talked about this, right? So, Vish, you've watched him. You have a good idea about Drake Jackson, right?
Yeah.
How do you think he fits in this defense?
I literally think this is a value pick for other people have talked about this before. Samson Ebukam could get cut, right? He could not make this team this offseason. I mean, if you look at all the moves they've made at edge, the money they owe him, they're better off, in fact, not paying that money. To me, he just fits as basically 2 profile and takes over on Samson Ebukam's role exactly on running pass downs.
100%.
6'3", 275, edge rusher, 6 sacks last season, 4 tackles for loss from USC. Let's see.
I mean, can the 49ers take somebody that's not an edge with their first round pick? I feel like all they do.
You know what's funny? So I don't have my notes with me, but I watched him though, and I remember he reminded me a little bit of this guy, and I looked up Lance Zierlein's report, and you know who his comp for this guy is? Eli Harold.
Oh no,
boy.
Oh no!
That's gonna happen. That would be PTSD right there.
What are you doing?
It's not PTSD in terms of like I think he'll be a better player, but if you're talking about that role, like the role that Eli Harold played in 2017 on this defense, it's a little bit different now because the defensive structure has changed with the fronts they played, but that kind of hybrid player that's going to set the edge on the strong side, all of that, that's who this is. This is pretty much, I think.
Did he test well?
I know
So
he didn't run. I know he didn't run.
He didn't run the 40, but his other measurables are great. His hand size, 10 and a quarter, 90th percentile. Vertical jump, 38 inches, 86th percentile. Broad jump, 10 feet, 7 inches, 95th percentile. So of some of the things he participated in, freak athlete.
If he jumped 38, that tells you he can.
That's explosive, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But KP, when you watched him, did you think he looked like a guy that was exposed enough to jump 38?
I didn't, but at the same time,
so
we're talking about think about what he was asked to do. Like he's not in a track stance and asked to fly upfield,
right.
Which with the 49ers, that is exactly what they're going to ask him to do on passing downs. And again, like this could just be a Samson Ebukam to start, where he's holding up the edge at first, and then on passing downs, he's going to be able to fly up. So I don't, but it's tough just because in college they run those 3-man fronts where guys just don't really get a chance to show off their athleticism. So those 3-5 stacks, in my opinion, are for cowards. So I wouldn't really run them to begin with. But yeah, I'd be interested. I'm going to watch him a little more in depth now that he's obviously with the team.
The 49ers.
Yeah, me too.
The 49ers have picked a defensive lineman with their top pick in 6th of the last 8 drafts. And like, I get it.
Who had that?
That was Cam Inman who tweeted that out. I get it. It's important. And let's be honest, the D Ford thing worked for like 2 snaps. And they've been really searching for somebody opposite Nick Bosa. And the line that I always like, I keep going back to like, well, they don't need a superstar there, right? Because Bosa's going to draw all the attention. And then you got Armstead on the inside. But like, they cannot seem to fill that role in any meaningful way. I mean, they try with Ebukam, you miss on the draft picks. You end up paying in free agency, which is what they ended up doing. Is Drake Jackson just like competent? Because I feel like that's kind of all we need on the other side. And I don't know the answer to that.
I'm not taking competent at 61, but I don't think you have another choice at 61 either. So it's kind of this is where we were talking about no man's land. You can't get those high upside guys at 61 because if you do, they're probably going to be so raw, so underdeveloped that they're not going to be able to step onto the field in year 1. So that's probably.
Let me ask you guys this though.
Go ahead.
Do you think this means Samson Ebukam is gone with the signing of Teray, signing of Kerry Hyder, drafting of Drake Jackson? To me, that means
I don't think Teray has much guaranteed money, so I don't think he's a.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Somebody's going to have to get cut, though, right? How many D linemen do they have?
All of them. They have all the.
I don't think you would cut Samson Ebukam. I feel like you could trade that contract if need be.
Well,
come training camp. Training camp, you realize
what if the steadfast price for Samson Ebukam is they need 2 threes for Samson Ebukam?
Oh man, but I was just getting back to what KP said. Yeah, no man's land, right? Would you be reaching for an offensive lineman or a safety that you think you may be able to get in the 90s, and so you go with a position that you've consistently built around in the defensive line? And the other thing is, it's not like you're going to get these twitchy pass rushers that are freak athletes in the second round. There's a reason they go in the top 10, right? I think
he's a good player for sure.
Whatever.
KP, I don't know. My bad, Akash. Sorry.
No,
you cut out for me, so I thought you were done. My bad. KP, I thought he was a good player when I watched him. I didn't really think of him, though, for the 49ers. I just thought he was pretty good.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, what do they like? They like length, they like athleticism, and they're like guys who just run their ass off. Like they're guys who hustle, guys who play whistle to whistle. And that's exactly who he is.
That's him, yeah.
And you think about Chris Kosirik, you think about a guy who can probably get a little bit more, squeeze every ounce of athleticism out of him. So again, I understand it. I would have been upset if they took a guy who just didn't have those, like who didn't jump 38, who didn't have, the broad jump. So I understand why they took him, and this is what they do. They build around the trenches. They build through the trenches. So not really a surprise they went here. I'm interested to see the more I watch him, what his upside is as a pass rusher. Is he going to bring more to the table than what we're talking about as a potential Samson Ebukam? Like, is that his floor? Or
I'll say this. I think he bends better than Samson Ebukam. That's the one thing I think he does better. Yeah. Samson Ebukam to me is just a little bit stiff. I think Drake Jackson has bend, which profiles, right?
You're spot on. I've got the PFF draft guide up, and where he wins, they've listed bend. They say Jackson has elite bend for an edge rusher, and he can duck low under opposing tackles. So you hit the nail on the head. There you go.
Perfect. Okay. Well, that makes me feel good too that I saw what was right about him. Good. Yeah. This is a good pick, though. I don't think it's a bad pick at all. Rob, you're muted.
Weak sauce by me. Jennifer Lee Chan just tweeted out the list. Drake Jackson joins Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, Samson Ebukam, Kerry Hyder, Kevin Givens, Maurice Hurst, Charles Amenahu, Jordan Willis. Like, damn.
This is a group.
Yeah, like this is a unit for the Niners that is incredibly deep. We've seen, maybe they're thinking, and it's something that they've kind of continued to espouse here, is just that if we can't get the guys to help in the secondary, just keep building up that damn D line, because dudes are going to get hurt. We can rotate everybody in, keep everybody fresh, and it's tough to argue with. I mean, there's a reason that Nick Bosa played every single game last season. I think part of it was they had such a deep unit.
Yeah. I have another takeaway too then, and I want to hear all three of your thoughts on this. Does this mean we're finally going to see the end of Eric Armstead on the outside, and they're going to make him exclusively an inside player where he is one of the best interior players in the league?
100%.
They better.
I was just about to tweet that, where bringing in Jackson.
I'm racing to it right now.
Bringing in Jackson tells you that Eric Armstead is going to stay inside, where he was an all-pro. Like, he legitimately was produced as an all-pro level. So I think that's going to be the best part about this.
Again, it feels like when everything else fails, take a pass rusher and pair him with Chris Kasarik, and good things seem to happen.
Look, he's gonna have opportunities. Dudes are gonna get hurt along the defensive line. I hope they keep Armstead on the inside, because they seem to never want to play Solomon Thomas there for some reason, despite the fact that he was clearly better inside. So hopefully if they keep Armstead inside. What's up, Akash?
I was going to say, guess what? He's only 20 years old.
Damn, he can't even go gamble or have a drink tonight?
So he's young.
Poor guy.
Hey, I know what that's like. It's not that bad. Don't worry. I only crossed the threshold recently.
I'm just saying, you get drafted, you're in Vegas. Well, he's probably not in Vegas, but you get drafted, like, you probably want to, legally have a couple of beverages. That's all I'm saying.
Doesn't have to be legal, Rob.
Actually, I lied. He turned 21 17 days ago, so I was close.
Oh, he's perfect. He's perfect. I'm sure this is, his first drink was only 17 days ago. You know how strict people are with these things, Rob.
Right. Yeah, I just didn't want to, espouse a crime live on the broadcast. That's all. That's just where you and I are different. That's all. That's fine. So what do you think for the Niners the rest of the night? I thought we were going to see a trade up by now. Obviously, they made the pick at 61. They're not on the clock again till 92. Do you think that they're just going to kind of sit around and make these picks, or do you think a trade up is still possible, Akash?
I still think a trade up is possible, just because they've got 8 picks left. Are all 8 guys going to make the roster? Like I mentioned earlier on the broadcast, I don't think so. So I feel like if you like a guy, if there's a safety or, a center, interior offensive lineman, you like, just trade up here in day 3 and go get a player you've liked or you like. They've done that before. We've seen them do it. It's burned them a few times, but I can see them doing that.
I just really hope that they, again, I still think they need to get a starter out of this draft. And now it's going to be even harder to do. You're speechless.
Yeah, I think we just got to be all in on hopefully they can clear up some money for JC Tretter, right?
Is that a possibility? I mean, no one else seems to want him. I would take him. I
mean, if you
said,
give up a second round pick, or you can if you lower your price other than a second round pick, you might be able to get 18 to $25 million opened up. Whisper, whisper.
well, and if Mackley isn't back, I think I would rather have JC Tretter here, a veteran center, to pair with Trey Lance, who essentially is a rookie. I mean, 10 quarters of experience. Do you really want a rookie, essentially quarterback, and a rookie center? That's a little scary. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I don't love that idea.
How about this, Vish? Since we're coming close to talking down on the boy Brunskill, do you think the 49ers will be able to draft a guy at 95 now, or I keep saying 95, 93 or 105, and they'll be able to beat out Brunskill? Because that's the tricky part, right? Where a rookie center, and they're not rookies, but essentially rookie guards, right? With Banks on one side and potentially more on the other, all for a quarterback or in front of a quarterback who started 2 games. Like, that is risque for sure.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. And then the other thing I would say too, because I want to go to John Lynch's presser, because there was not a lot you can take away from it. But one thing I did think that was interesting that he said was they don't have to actually put a lot of the protection calls on the center in this offense. They could take that role away from him. I mean, what was one of the things that was most talked about with Trey Lance before he was drafted, right? The fact that he made all the protection and all the line calls at NDSU. So maybe they need, like you said, obviously a guy like maybe Brunskill, technically he does fit the athletic profile, and he didn't play too bad 2 years ago, honestly. Like, he saved their season a little bit when he slid in, because Ronus Grasu was brutal.
God,
and so
I forget
maybe
Ronus Grasu.
Yeah, so maybe they do go that route, and they do just get a guy like Brunskill, and they put more of the protection on Trey Lance, because his intellect is supposed to be genius. That's what people say. So you pair that together, and maybe they do make it work. I mean, I think there's also still a little bit contingent, because I'm not worried about Brunskill. I don't think anybody's going to talk bad about the boy Brunskill. I think we're more worried about Aaron Banks and Jalen Moore and Mike McGlinchey. Mike McGlinchey because of his quad.
Well, that's kind of a ballsy, they're kind of banking on their drafting development to kind of sit there and be like, yeah, Laken Tomlinson can go to the Jets. We've got Aaron Banks. When the dude couldn't even dress last year, you better be right, because otherwise your offensive line is in shambles. You have Trey Lance, who's just in his first year as a starter. This could be really, really bad. And I don't want to say they're gambling, because they have more knowledge than, of course, we have with these people. But you're kind of putting your chips all on one thing here, and there's a lot of pressure on Aaron Banks and Jalen Moore if he actually gets in there.
Yeah,
I'm very high on Jalen Moore, alarmingly high on Jalen Moore, just because I saw him move. And you don't really see linemen his size move the way he does. And he obviously has power. He made some mental mistakes last year, and he's a rookie. He's a day 3 rookie at that. So that's inevitable. Those are going to happen. But I think he has the athletic traits to really excel in Kyle Shanahan's scheme. And for offensive linemen, you don't have to be all world. You don't have to be Trent Williams. You just have to be competent athletically. And he's above that bar. So I imagine the more he plays, the more he gets used to what he's seeing and what NFL guys do, he's not going to have those mental mistakes. He's not going to just have those miscues that rookies do. So I think they're in a really good spot here. And I think I'm more worried about, what Banks is going to be.
I love this super chat. Moonman Ed. Is D Ford still on the roster?
Cashing checks, baby. Hell
yes,
yeah, he is.
Let's welcome in another member of the Niners Nation Podcast Network. That is our guy, Leo Luna. Leo, are you at the draft right now?
Yeah, he is.
Yes, I'm in the draft. I'm in the media workroom. I wish Jake Jackson was here so that we could go ahead and interview him in the media room, ask him some questions. But he's actually in Henderson, Nevada, which is probably 20 minutes from the strip where we are. the vibe in the room is from everybody around the surrounding areas that it was a great pick for the 49ers, getting another edge rusher, especially of his talent. I remember seeing as far as win rate uh, on non-stunts, and Drake Jackson was somewhere in the mid to low 20s, right up there with these other guys that win in the first round. So that's what I liked about Drake Jackson compared to the first overall pick of this year's draft. He was 10%. So at least Drake Jackson was, more than double than that.
KP, what were you just commenting about?
No, if his win rate was in the 20s off non-stunts,
22%.
Holy smokes!
So
where did you see that at?
PFF Austin Gale ran the numbers, and he had them for like different things. And so, pass rush win rates, stunts and blitz removed. Karlaftis led the way with 27%. Then it was Hutchinson at 25, Enigbare at 25, Thibodeau at 24%. Ebukate and Jackson had the same at 22%. That's higher than Boye Mafe, Josh Pascal, Jermaine Johnson, and Trevon Walker, who all got drafted before Drake Jackson.
The one thing I'll say that he has, which I didn't think any of the top edges in the draft had, was the bend, right? I didn't think Thibodeau was a good bender. Walker definitely wasn't. Hutchinson, that was probably his biggest weakness. I mean, you go down the list, a lot of them, he actually is probably more natural at bending around the edge than a lot of those guys.
Now that this pick has been made and we've seen some guys like Arden Key leave and have a new home in Jacksonville, is this defensive line a little deeper than last year, or is it around the same? Where are we sitting with it?
So Jackson, and I need to watch more of him to see if he wins inside. I think they still need to have that guy who can kick inside. And maybe that is Jackson. Maybe they don't need that just because it's Armstead, and they're hoping to get that out of
Charles Omenihu, KP.
Jackson.
I think he's going to be good. Honestly, I think he's going to be very good for them in spurts, of course, but that's not a bad name.
Jackson only had 16 snaps inside.
Yeah, okay, I was going to say that. At USC, he wasn't asked to do that as well. And it also depends on his weight because it did fluctuate at times with his weight. So what type of guy are you going to bring into USC in terms of his body frame? That's going to be interesting as well. But knowing this 49ers team, I don't think it would be too surprising to say he didn't play inside at USC, basically. But let's play him a little bit inside here with the 49ers at the NFL. That would not shock me if they decided to go ahead and do that. But I'm not expecting them to.
PFF's Austin Gale, who watches these edge rushers a lot, he just texted me because of the pass rush win rates. He said, "Dude is good."
Good.
Speaking of Jake
Jackson. I have a couple people too who watch USC exclusively, and they said, "Ooh, the Niners got a good one." I mean, I just never thought of him really for the 49ers, and I watched him. But I usually don't think of the players I watch for the 49ers. I kind of just watch them to watch them.
Right.
Leo, since you're there, not to totally change course, but I just have to ask, since you're there, have you heard any chatter about a Jimmy Garoppolo trade to the Panthers or anything like that?
No. No, I haven't heard any news about that. I know Aaron Wilson said something about it will take a second round, like the 49ers will take a second rounder for Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, as you can see, the 49ers are not getting a second rounder in this year's draft for Jimmy Garoppolo. At this point, I'd be shocked if Jimmy Garoppolo is moved from draft compensation in this year's draft.
Yeah.
So if he gets moved for draft capital, it's going to be next year's draft. I just don't see it at this point.
Which, don't they have like 11 picks next year or 12?
Yeah, and all the smoke. Let's be real. The only team out there really that would initiate a trade would be the Carolina Panthers. And all the smoke is Baker Mayfield, which makes sense on their end is, okay, they're just as injured, but Baker's younger with a cheaper contract opposed to a Jimmy Garoppolo. You're going to take on $25 million plus Sam Darnold's $18 million. It just doesn't really make sense for them to do that and give up draft capital. We're talking about $43 million against the cap for Jimmy Garoppolo and Sam Darnold. So it's going to be a long process. And as much as we want it to end, it doesn't sound like it's going to end at the end of this draft.
That is a sad, depressing state of affairs. I feel like this is one of those like dreams that you have over and over again. Like I still have dreams that I'm in school, like not prepared for a test or something. That's what it's like when Jimmy Garoppolo is here. Like you just wake up in a cold sweat. You're like, what if he ends up starting next year?
Oh God, Rob.
I can't take it anymore.
The one thing I will say is with Pittsburgh, them taking Kenny Pickett, them signing Trubisky, you cannot tell me that they wouldn't have been interested in Garoppolo if the asking price maybe made a little bit more sense for them.
I will say this. The 49ers invited fans out here to be in that little pit area, and they gave them jerseys. They gave them options of jerseys. Those options were Trey Lance, Fred Warner, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. None of those options were Jimmy Garoppolo. So I think that should make us.
Yeah, no Nick
Nick
Bosa.
Bosa as well. Nick Bosa as well.
I was going to say Leo.
Yeah,
Breaking some news.
You guys almost caught me slipping.
There you go.
So if that tells you what they're doing at the quarterback position moving forward, I mean, they would have made Jimmy Garoppolo at least mentioned amongst Trey Lance and just let the person choose. But he wasn't an option. I talked to one of the guys. He was like, I kind of feel like being a little rebel and ask for a Jimmy Garoppolo and see what they say.
Don't even go there. Who knows what could happen? Are you guys still surprised that Nakobe Dean is on the board still? I just saw Pat 40 tweeted that his medicals are bad.
His injury and his size, right?
He had a pectoral injury, but I am not 100% like I think that if there was a Georgia player who was the biggest beneficiary maybe of playing with that much talent, it might have been Nakobe Dean. I think he was the most hyped player, but I do think that combined with the actual medical, because apparently it's something to do with this pectoral is what.
So, sorry, not to cut you off, Vish. I have to read this comment. TC watching on the YouTube page. Drake Jackson is like Aldon Smith all over again. I'm excited. What about you? Look, I get it. Excitement is warranted, but at the same time, Aldon Smith had like 43 sacks in his first 44 games and was a top pick in the first round. Drake Jackson was picked 61 overall. I'm all for excitement, but damn, we gotta slow down a little bit.
We're talking about Reggie White numbers in his first 2 years was produced by Aldon Smith. Aldon Smith is one of the freakiest edge rushers we have ever seen.
I think the only thing they share is that they both wear 99.
There you go.
But Aldon Smith wore 85 in college, which actually
really?
used to bother me a lot.
That is awful for a lineman. That is brutal.
Yeah, it really used to bother me. I'm not even gonna lie. Like if you were a bad number, you're a bad number, bad drip guy. I do like it. It does bother me, you know.
Yeah, I get it, man. I like the Niners' whole plan to have the secondary be 1, 2, 3, 4 last year. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Of course, Jason Verrett got hurt in the first game, so that kind of blew that whole thing up. But so there we go. Drake Jackson is the pick. I think we're going to wrap this thing up. We've been on the air for about 90 minutes here. Shout out to Haplo Blank watching on the YouTube page. Thank you for your work, guys. I really wish Michelle would pop in. She wants to pop in, but she's a researcher for the NFL Network, so she's kind of busy tonight. Otherwise, she would have popped in. But I want to say thank you to KP. Thank you to Levin. Thank you to Leo, Akash, Vish. Can't express enough how grateful I am for all the work that you do. And thanks for spending part of your night with us, guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was really fun to come on and, chat it up about the draft. Y'all rock.
We'll have instant reaction podcasts for every other 49ers pick that gets made. So don't worry. When the pick is in, KP and I are going to hop in. We'll do an instant reaction podcast. Those will be there for you. As soon as we're done, I will pop them up. So we will have updates all night. Plus, we'll throw up the John Lynch press conferences. Don't worry. There's going to be plenty more to come from Niners Nation. So please.
Rob, are you going to ask a question at one of these?
They don't let me in. I've tried to get in. They don't let me in. I swear to God. I don't know why. Maybe they've read my tweets. That could be a significant factor. But if
a little bit of a problem.
If they'd let me in, they don't want to. They better not.
You know why it is, Rob? You want me to tell you why? It's because you let everybody know. You do before the presser, every time you do the questions I would like asked for John Lynch, and then they look at those and they say, okay, questions we don't want John Lynch to be asked. Rob Guerrero, see ya.
And I would. So that's why they probably haven't. But I'm going to continue to do it. So whatever. And if I ever get the opportunity, I will ask them to their. I never say anything on a pod that I wouldn't say to somebody's face, including to Russell Wilson. When I said I hated his guts, I have said that to Russell Wilson's face. I don't regret it. It was
What did he do? Laugh? He's like, ha 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 ha.
he
Rob,
could not
you're
have
so
cared
funny.
less. Trust me, he could not have cared any less. But anyway, thank you to everybody. So there's going to be plenty more from Niners Nation. Rate, review, follow. You can follow Akash on Twitter at Akash ANAV. You can follow Vish on Twitter at Vish Kumaran. Is that right? I don't remember your handle off the top of my head.
That is right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's
why
right on.
it's on the screen. So that's why I took a risk there, but there you go. So
That's why they pay you the big bucks, Rob.
medium bucks. Thank you, everybody.
He needs a raise.
Stick with Niners Nation. There is plenty more to come. Again, we are always, always, always grateful for everything.